This happened on Friday. I'm so beyond upset right now and have gone no contact for the immediate future with my mum. My 36-year-old male, sister Jane, 34-year-old female, have no relationship. She's my sister by blood only. I'll try to be as unbiased as possible here. But she did some pretty crappy things when our father died. Things like withholding information about his estate, attempting to sell his home and split the profits with his fiancée against my knowledge, not actually being physically there when he died in hospice, etc. Afterwards, she would continuously gaslight me to the point that I went no contact with her back in 2018. My life has been so much better without her in it. My mum, Brenda, 60-year-old female, is not a fan of this. She was divorced from my father, and even though I loved him so much, I have to admit that he wasn't the greatest parent in some aspects. We lived with him. My sister and I not having a great relationship is, mostly in part, his fault. Brenda doesn't like that her two only children have a dead relationship and is constantly trying to fix it. After being in therapy, I've started learning how to establish and enforce boundaries. I don't like it when my mum attempts to fix our relationship, and I call her out on it gently each time. For example, a few weeks ago she mentioned how she wasn't going to name either me or Jane as the executor until we fix our issues. I calmly told her I didn't think that was appropriate to say or do, and that I didn't like how she isn't taking into account my feelings and why I chose to go no contact with Jane. My wife and I flew in to go visit Brenda this past Friday. My wife and I recently had a son a year ago, so we wanted to visit his grandma. We walked in and were met with half the family standing there, including Jane, who was sitting, claiming that they were doing an intervention. On my relationship with Jane, I was speechless. I looked at my wife, who was just as flabbergasted as I was. I said, I'm not doing an intervention, and this is enormously inappropriate. My mum went into this tirade of how I'm a grown adult and this behaviour is childish. I need to make up with my sister so we can put all of this behind us. We immediately left. My mum followed us out while asking why I couldn't do the adult thing and just talk to my sister. Baby was crying. We got into the car and booked a hotel. I booked a new flight for tomorrow, and I'm trying my best not to look upset for the baby. My wife says she had nothing to do with this and would never sanction it if she knew. My wife's phone and mine have been blowing up non-stop with the family accusing me of being a drama queen and hurting my mum's feelings. The only family member I didn't go no contact with is my stepdad, who sent me a simple apology text. With all these text messages, I'm starting to doubt myself. My next therapy session isn't until next Friday, and I'm not sure how to feel. Am I the jerk for going no contact with my mum? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Your mother is way out of line. Interventions are not for damaged relationships. Interventions are for addicts or those who are otherwise destroying their own lives. But choosing to be no contact with Jane, as far as I can tell, is not harming you in the least. This wasn't an intervention. It was your mother trying to impose her will on you and attempting to force a reconciliation. That aside, suppose you decided to go along with it. Given what you've shared about Jane's character, I'm sure she would do her level best to make everything seem like it was all your fault. You wouldn't have been heard and you would have been blamed for everything. How do I know this? Because Jane was already present and apparently decided to go along with this. She was sitting in the room, apparently wise to what was going on. If I were a gambling man, I'd bet money she's got a little spiel planned. Even if this were an intervention to get you and Jane to repair your relationship, why are you the only one being ambushed? Shouldn't both you and Jane be caught off guard instead of just you? Everyone involved in this intervention has already framed you as the bad guy, the one who needs to be fixed. Props to your stepdad. Sounds like he knew this was a bad idea going in. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Would you treat anyone like they treated you? If not, why would it be okay for them to treat you this way? You have value as a unique human being and also as a spouse and a parent. You have to allow yourself to do what is right for you, or you won't be able to do whatever is right for all of your family. You have been no contact with your sister since 2018. It took years to reach that point and years of being that way. Why shouldn't it take time for healing too? For them to demand that you do what they want when and how they want it is incredibly disrespectful to you. For them to berate you for not allowing them to disrespect your boundaries is ridiculous. If you choose to try to work things out with Jane, being surrounded by her verbal hitmen probably isn't ideal. Perhaps a neutral family mediator with just the two of you might be productive if and when you decide to do that. Ambushing someone rarely ends well, I repeat. Not the idiot. Comment 3. Wow, nope. Not the idiot. That was absolutely inappropriate and wildly asinine on Brenda's part. I understand that she wants her kids to get along, but the time for ensuring that they did was when you two were young, not when you are both grown but adults. The fact that Brenda did that when you had your new baby with you, essentially putting the baby in the middle of an extremely emotional and potentially volatile situation, says a lot about how little Brenda cares about the emotional well-being of others. I would definitely send Brenda a letter or email explaining how that made you feel and outlining that you will no longer be accepting contact from her unless she stops trying to fix things. If she replies with an argument, you let her know she is now no longer welcome to contact you, and you block her and you move on with your life. Now, for the update. So, the plot thickens. 2 weeks ago, we hastily checked out of our hotel the very next morning after the intervention fiasco and headed back home. I was still feeling a cocktail of emotions, anger, betrayal, and a modicum of guilt served up by my family's accusations of being dramatic. We got home and I tried to put it all behind me. However, as it turns out, Brenda and Jane weren't ready to give up just yet. 3 days after we were back, Jane turned up at our doorstep unannounced, with Brenda in tow. They wanted to have that family talk in my own living room. I decided to hear them out, but made it clear that it was my house, and if things got too heated, they would have to leave. Brenda almost immediately started the waterworks, pulling out the "You're ending the life of your mother" card, while Jane put on the mask of the wronged sister, playing the victim. What shocked me, though, was that Jane had brought along a legal document. It was a property deed, dated a few months after our father passed away. Apparently, our father left his vacation house to Jane in his will, but my father's lawyer had made a clerical error, accidentally putting my name instead of Jane's. Jane had been trying to get my signature on the deed for a while, but I, being no contact, had no idea. This revelation was a slap in the face. Not because of the property, but because I realized that Jane's sudden interest in reconciliation wasn't out of remorse or love for family. It was about material gain. I told them both to leave, signing nothing. Jane predictably blew up, calling me all kinds of names, while Brenda looked on in silence. I contacted my father's lawyer the next day, confirming the error. He apologized profusely, saying he'd been trying to reach me to correct it, but I, having gone no contact with everyone, was unreachable. I haven't spoken to Brenda or Jane since that day. I'm in the midst of legal procedures to correct the deed. My wife and I are also considering moving after this ordeal, to start fresh and maintain our boundaries. It's been a stressful 2 weeks, but we're just taking it a day at a time. So, that's my update. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm certain that my decision to go no contact was the right one. The drama continues, but we're just trying to navigate through it all. Now, for the comments. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You were right in keeping your distance after the failed intervention, and it's clear that Jane and Brenda's surprise visit was not out of concern for your well-being, but rather to manipulate you into signing over the vacation house. It's sad when family relationships are reduced to material interests, but it's important to protect yourself. In my opinion, you're making the right decision by taking legal steps to correct the error. It's unfortunate that you've had to go through this, but at least you've been able to see their true colors and act accordingly. Comment 2. Not the idiot. It seems like the entire situation was a setup from the beginning. Jane clearly had ulterior motives for the so-called family talk. It's disheartening to realize that your family's intentions may not be genuine, but it's better to know now than to continue being manipulated. The fact that you verified the error with your father's lawyer shows your maturity and intelligence in handling this situation. Considering moving to start fresh is a step in the right direction. Take this as an opportunity to establish boundaries and focus on your own well-being. Comment 3. Not the idiot. This is a classic case of family members trying to take advantage of a situation for their own gain, rather than genuinely caring about your feelings or well-being. It's clear that Jane's reconciliation attempt was just a ruse to rectify the clerical error in her favor. Your decision to go no contact, while difficult, seems to be the healthiest option given the circumstances. It's important to surround yourself with people who value and respect you. And unfortunately, it seems like Jane and Brenda have shown that they are not those people. Now, for the next story. I understand that this is a silly issue to have, but it's an issue we have and I need advice. 5 to 6 years ago, my homeowners association, HOA, decided that our neighborhood is boring and encouraged people to come up with ideas or activities to liven things up. This is when my Pup Olympics was born. It's just the neighborhood dogs competing poorly in different silly events for 2 days and being rewarded with treats. Early on there would be prizes for the owners of whichever dog won each event, and it really was all fun and games. After a couple of years, we started charging an entry fee for each event, and the money went toward cash prizes and a donation to a really great local animal shelter, where lots of us got our pups. It might be worth noting that most people in the neighborhood choose to donate their cash prize toward the shelter fund, so we usually come up with a pretty great donation. People look forward to the Olympics every year. It's ridiculous, but it's fun, and we all love it. 18 months ago, a new neighbor moved in, and she has a poodle who frequently competes in and wins dog competitions. This dog has 1 million followers on Instagram. We all follow the page and obviously root for this dog in the competitions. There is no issue with the dog itself, however it ruined Pup Olympics last year. This dog swept every single competition. There was literally only one event for senior dogs that it didn't qualify for, and that's the only one that this poodle didn't win. We all just kind of stood there for 2 days and gave cash prizes to the same woman for every event. To make matters worse, she also didn't donate a single extra penny to the shelter fund. Bonus, am I the jerk, for if I'm wrong for being judgy here. This has turned an event for families and kids into something it was never meant to be. It's like having a professional athlete compete at a high school field day. So, Pup Olympics are happening soon. But this year my committee decided on a no competition dogs rule to make it more fair for the other owners' families. The poodle owner got notice of this and has gone ballistic. Our HOA had a committee meeting and decided in her favor that we couldn't exclude her or her dog if we wanted to have the competition in the neighborhood. I thought about it and then just went ahead and sent a cancellation notice out. Somebody from the HOA board tried to pull it back together, but just isn't getting much interest. Now the poodle owner has sent me multiple vindictive messages implying that I did this to hurt her personally, and the neighborhood is split 50-50 on who was in the wrong. So am I the jerk? TL Doctor. Change the rules of our neighbor's Pup Olympics to exclude a professional show dog, which put the neighborhood in shambles. Edit for more info. I didn't have space in the post, but to clarify, deciding to cancel was more of a long story short after 4 days of meetings with this woman to try to come up with something agreeable. First, I offered to have a couple of categories for more serious competition dogs, but I was told by the HOA that I'm not allowed to host any kind of events that make it seem like any part of this is a real dog competition. Then I tried to restrict how many events each dog can enter, and she wanted that number to be 8 out of 10 events. That was the number she got the HOA board to agree with her on, and they basically told me that if I couldn't let that happen, then I couldn't host the competition. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You could change the event so that the show dog can't win. Event #1. Pup missing the most teeth. Event #2. Pup that gets the messiest while eating. Pie plate filled with peanut butter and whipped cream. Event #3. Most overweight pup. Event #4. Pup with biggest smallest footprint. Have pie tins with plaster in it so the pup can make an imprint that the owner can keep after the Olympics. Event #5. Bobbing for biscuits. Event #6. Male 100, squirrel chase. Event #7, speed sniffing, hide some small scented toys on the play area, and time which dog finds the most in the shortest amount of time. Event #8, tug of war. Event #9, 50-yard dog paddle. Event #10, wiggle butt freestyle. Have the audience vote on the wildness of the wiggles, or the most wiggles in 1 minute. Event #11, best treat hunter. Event #12, freestyle howling. You can have a lot of fun thinking up bizarre events that the poodle wouldn't be a shoo-in. Comment 2. I didn't have space in the post, but to clarify, deciding to cancel was more of a long story, short after 4 days of meetings with this woman to try to come up with something agreeable. First, I offered to do a couple of categories for more serious competition dogs, but was told by the HOA that I'm not allowed to host any kind of events that make it seem like any part of this is a real dog competition.